public comments regarding current future agendas? We have some public here. Is there any comments at this time from the public? All right, move along. Our student representative update. We have no student representative. She was preoccupied.
I know, I get to judge her project, which was very nice. So she did a very nice job, and I think all the kids did a wonderful job. So
At the science fair.
At the science fair.
Right.
It's really wonderful presentations.
Yeah, it looked like there was as many, I did talk to Mr. Daly, and he said that there was as many exhibits as there was last year. So it was a great turnout. Filled the commons right out. All right, we'll move along to adoption of the minutes of December 20th. We have right here. January 10th. We have January 10th.
Our last 15 days? Or which one?
That was the
The
15-minute.
That was the one, right? That was the one.
Do we have
You have
those
it?
minutes? That one?
Maybe they're in here. I didn't.
Here's a copy.
Okay.
Let me look at my packet. Yes, I have a copy. They came in through email.
Okay. There's usually hard copies here for signatures, but not today. Or
For the minutes?
for the minutes of the 10th. Okay. Well, we have one now. So we can make two separate motions if you'd like. Motion to approve the minutes of December 20th, 2018. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Richard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vicky. Any questions, concerns on the minutes of the 20th? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve minutes of December 20th, 2018, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 10th, 2019 meeting, which was a quick meeting held in Highgate just before their Highgate regular monthly meeting. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Eric. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Vicky. Any questions or concerns on those? Basically, the business at hand that day was to appoint members to the amendment committee. So the meeting was called to order at 6:17, adjourned at 6:44, and that was the bulk of the discussion was to appoint members to that committee. The members appointed were myself. I think about that now.
Don, John, Eric.
Yeah. Don, John, and Eric.
Yep, that's four.
Yep. So any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve January 10th, 2019 minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstain.
All right. The ayes have it, motion carries, one abstention. You won't get those down. Yeah. All right. Now, fun part of the meeting, we have an athletic director's update. I see we have an athletic director with us. We can even save you a seat if you want to sit. If you want to stand, you can stand.
Yes. Direction. Direction. Oops.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Good to
Thanks
have
for the
you.
invite.
Good to have you at our meeting. It's always a pleasure.
No, I didn't know who had that.
So I am here this evening to talk about improvements and or additions in our track and field as well as football. And Oh, it's right there. Thank you. Whoever did that. We'll start with football. This is a proposed budget that my coach and I have talked about. I was here in November to talk about the football program, and a few days after I met here with the board, my coach and I traveled to Hartford High School to talk about the status of our football program. It was decided with the Vermont Football League and approved that for next year our football program will go to a JV status. It's for 1 year. It can change from year to year, but for next year we will be a JV football team.
How does that change what it looks like now, currently?
Well, one of the things I asked my coach was that how many freshmen did he have on his team? And the number is 7, which tells me that my coach is, in commons, asking, young kids, our young student athletes to be part of something. And seeing that he was able to get 7 freshmen on his team speaks volumes, I think, on the character of who he is and trying to build our program.
They'll play a different
So they will play different schools. Traveling, I think, will be less, as there's more JV teams in Chittenden County and in BFA St. Albans, Milton, and then into Chittenden County. Games would be usually on Monday afternoons and then on Saturdays. Probably the biggest difference. I know my coach and I have talked about that he will still continue to do some fundraising to help the program in any way that he can. And talked to this group in November that they would still continue to do the cornhole tournament, as well as trying to think where else.
Golf tournament?
Oh, the golf tournament, thank you. And also the golf tournament to help supplement his budget. Same amount of games played on Monday, JV status.
7 games. Is that
7 to 8 games, yeah.
John, is a coach's salary in line with other coaches' salaries? I mean, is it on the salary schedule here in the negotiated contract, football coach?
No,
It's not.
no.
Because it seems to be lower than a lot of other coaches' salaries.
For JV status, right on par with this.
For JV?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Is there any concern with the health of the program?
No, I truly believe that Coach Chaffee and his staff will be able to increase his numbers in the years to come. He, works hard. His staff works hard, throughout the year. I do know that we're going to still talking to Enosburg as well as Richford athletic directors to see if we can get any student athletes from their areas that would still and be part of our program. But it's I think it's a program that will continue to grow with his leadership, and just excited to see what he can do.
Is that a lengthy process, or can the Principals Association Athletic approve that? I mean, you say you're working on it, but is it something that could be in place for next fall?
For
Enosburg and Richford sending.
oh yes,
here.
yep,
So it's not a lengthy process?
No.
People want
no paperwork involved,
Okay.
but within a few weeks. Obviously registration, physicals, and within a week, some paperwork at Montpelier, at BPA office, and those student athletes from other schools can join our school.
What's the status on a feeder program on a younger level and around this area?
That is something that he, Coach, is still working on, especially I know that he's been talking to the Highgate Recreation Department about what it might look like and what he might need to do to at least start something up there. But I just know that right now it's just talking, but no plan yet.
What about Swanton?
Has Swan
Yeah.
started something, or?
I don't believe so.
They tried.
They tried, but I don't think it was the numbers that were there yet.
I don't think they had any
But-
sign-ups, if
Yeah.
they have a couple.
But I know that is the next step that he's looking to do, and that is to start at the youth. And he knows, we've talked about that as well.
So what are the total numbers you're talking?
The number here that,
Yeah.
that played football,
Yeah.
there were 17.
What number do you think is a goal?
A goal, 22 would be a great number to have.
Just curious, how many hockey players do you have?
Girls and boys, 32 to 34.
Each team?
Almost, there was, I think, 18 for boys,
Okay.
14 for girls. A couple managers, I know, on each team. With them.
This, I know this $10,000 has been around since the beginning. Still holding true then?
Yeah, I mean, he knows that, you know, as he continues with the program, you know, we would like that, you know, have maybe some different equipment. But he knows he'll continue to fundraise and do what he can to get the program up and running. But 10,000 for this program goes a long ways.
I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about it. I wasn't here, but I want to talk about putting $10,000 in the budget. And I know it's not popular, but I live in Swanton, and I've seen some students in Swanton who now aren't on the street, they aren't doing vandalism, they aren't getting in other trouble because they played football. And so I think everybody around the table knows that next year at this time we're going to be looking at a different budget process. A few months we're going to look at a different process. There'll be one budget. And I guess I'd encourage my colleagues around this board to show some moxie and say it's time to put $10,000 in the athletic budget for MVU.
Yeah, and like I said last time, I'm not in favor of putting special articles up in front of the new transition board and then onto the new process of budgeting. I think we should either decide put it in or don't. I don't want to go forth with these special articles. And I mean, $10,000 for 17 people versus what was hockey, just the ice, 40,000 for 32, 34. So as far as the cost,
There were some people in
it's
Swanton who
not-
were very
it's not
interested
just
in
crazy.
maybe putting a petition or something, but kind of talked to them and said, I'm not sure that would make a lot of difference. But I think that the people, I wasn't here. I don't know if it was football, the students, or the way it was handled, but I, for one, want to see 10,000 of the budget, which we know will not be our budget, it will be Ron's budget. We're going to have a big budget. We're going to have one big budget, so.
So we'll have somebody to blame. No, I agree with both of you as far as it should be in the budget. If it wasn't for the history of it, I would support that wholeheartedly. I think it's going to definitely warrant a little more discussion, but and I don't know if we have to make that decision right here now. It's a great point, but
I'd really like to know why it's not supported by the community.
I'm not sure if the feelings are still the same as when it first
Right.
got rejected, though.
Like-
So
I could speculate, but I would only be speculating, so I'm going to hold back on that one.
If we were in executive session, I will tell you what a number of people in Swanton have told me. When I say a number, I'm probably thinking less than 20, but more than 10.
Well, maybe something needs to happen, like the slate clean, right? Where, okay, maybe John writes a letter, it gets published in the newspaper saying, this is a history. In case it'll clear up rumors, right? This is what happened. This is, either we made mistakes of how the program was implemented, we made mistakes how it was funded, you know, all of these things, whatever they are, I don't know. And say, this is how we want to move forward. This is how we want it to be supported. We've done some research. We kind of did some homework. We've got some real numbers now. This is what it's going to cost, and this is what, you know, this is what we're looking at. We want to build this program. And, you know, maybe then the community will start backing, you know, this program and support it, where we don't need to, you know, have an article for it.
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes it's good to come clean and say, you know what, it is what it is, and you know, we learn from our mistakes or whatever, and this is, you know, we're moving forward.
Right.
I don't know.
I agree with you, and one thing I would add is if John or Jay or somebody brought that letter, I would ask the school board members have an option to put their name on that letter. Support it.
You know, looking back at the vote from last year's article, it was defeated 2-1. So I don't know if those 900 and some odd voters that voted against it will all have forgotten by now, or all feel the same.
I don't think anybody's forgotten.
Right.
But there could be a change of heart if somebody owns up to.
And that was our hope, and as the program was implemented and grew, that people were going to say, "Oh, this is like what Don just said. You know, this is a good thing. It's helping some kids out. It's a good thing. $10,000, really a small price to pay for a program that's going to help kids out." So,
You know, I don't want to pound this to death. We have a lot to do, but I think Eric's onto something. I'm going to tell you, there's some people in Swanton. Maybe I just hang around the wrong people. But because I had business there, people stop by, and because I was in politics, I like the Benji. They don't even know who the coach is now. They don't know who's. As far as they know, some of the same people that were here the day it started are still here. And you've got a new coach. Well, I say the coach, and some involvement of parents. You know, was it 2 years ago we had some families in here talking to us on the board? There must be some families that would step up and take leadership too, and some former students. And I think if we can rally some former students, players, maybe some current, and some parents, and get the word out. So,
Chad, I know last spring when we host our track and field event meet at BFA, you know, I call a lot of people for favors, and I called Chad, the coach, and he says, "John, what do you need?" And I need an official at the shot put area, and he was there. You know, anything that he can do to help not only his program, but just help us as a school and in athletics as well. So he's a great coach. Kids loved him, and I'm just tickled pink that I could have him on my staff.
Do they have any money left in their fundraise, like that they've done?
I'm going to say that if they have money, it might be, I'm going to say maybe $1,000, $1,500.
So nothing really.
Nothing, no.
Nothing major.
No.
all right.
You know, it doesn't have to be a newspaper article or a letter or anything like this. It could be an informational meeting. It could be a video showing, you know, football the last few years. You know, anything to promote.
We need to sell it.
You
Right?
need to sell it as
What
you know
about
what,
the annual
it's
report?
flourishing.
What about the annual report? Do we have to have an annual report going out soon?
Oh, yeah, we sent them to one of the towns already.
But this is MVU does their own?
Yeah.
MVU does their own.
Yeah, but those don't go out to everyone, I thought. They just go to
Pick
a
'em
central
up.
location to be picked up.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
it's
always
not
the
mailed
challenge.
anywhere or distributed in any way.
Always the challenge of getting the information to the right people.
But it's one more way to do it. May not be the only one. Not everybody
There could be
around
multiple
uses
ways,
it.
right? I mean, it's however much you want it, and how much you want to sell it, promote it, you know. I don't feel comfortable as a board member supporting something that I know that the community hasn't backed. And, you know, it can't be just about my own opinion. I got to take in consideration community members and how they feel. because that's who we represent, right?
Mhm.
So, if they're on board, then,
Right, and our timeline, as I understand it, has been extended a bit as far as our
Yes,
budget.
You'd really be looking to make, I mean, if nothing changes, you'd really be looking to make a recommendation to the transition board for the merge budget to either have it in, do an article, or, you know, when it doesn't pass, do fundraising. I mean, how, I don't know that, but you'd look at the options.
Right.
Obviously.
When does that have to happen by though? When would this
Time.
board have to decide?
Well, the organizational meeting would be February 20th.
So is our next MVU meeting before then?
It is.
no.
It's on the
No,
21st.
the night
it's
after.
the night after.
But the budget wouldn't be presented
The
to them.
budget wouldn't be
We have
presented to them
another
yet.
30
Yeah.
days.
You'd be
After
fine.
that night, a group will do the budget, right?
Yep. And you would have your two representatives from MVU on that transition board doing that work. But of course, you want to have the consensus
Right.
of this board.
Right, so,
So the organizational meeting is not going to be the first board, you know, if nothing changes, then it would probably be the next one at that meeting. So your February 21st meeting would be fine if that's when you want to make a decision to recommend.
right, because at that point, that's when the warning would have to go out after their first meeting.
Well, no, they'd be doing the work, putting the budget together
Right.
first,
But
so
it
it'll
would have
take
to-
a while,
right.
yeah.
Oh,
It would take a while.
It'll take about a month to prepare, you know, with multiple meetings.
right, so the deadline for having a budget pass would be July 1, but they're hoping early May
Yes, looks like
to
that.
get a vote early May, which means early April warning,
Mhm.
30-day warning. So,
So there are gonna be 8 people who will decide to build that budget, right?
Right, and then depending on the articles discussion,
Right.
the elected board would warn it, would adopt a budget and warn it for the voters.
So, you know, the way I look at it, I think I can get 2 votes and swamp mine and somebody else's. So if I can get Dennis and John, we got 4 out of 8. I'll at least get one. Anyway, I thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, for letting me express
yes,
my
no, I
opinion.
appreciate that, and it's been one of those issues ongoing, and we've got to, this would be a great opportunity to make it right.
But just so I'm clear, Eric, so if something, you know, say maybe something got published in the Messenger or newspaper relatively soon, and then whether it's next meeting, the meeting after, I mean, what's your thought process? You're gonna query people
Right.
around and find out what they think about it? I mean, what's that click in your mind on how you
Well,
want
yeah,
to go?
I mean, that's a
Or
good
is it
point,
still just
because, I mean,
subjective?
you know, I mean,
I can think of a couple of people
What?
that you might talk to that are very opposed to it, and at what point, you know, how do we convince people like that? It may take some doing.
John, do you know of any kid that could put together a slideshow or something with this information, some information you pull together? Do you know a kid that could do that relatively quickly and efficiently?
And where would they present that?
Why don't they just share it on Facebook with a Google survey? And then the results come back to you. I mean, I don't know, it's just an idea. I don't want you to feel like you have to do a slideshow and all, I mean, that's a lot on you. You have enough to do. But if you know a student or a former student or someone that has, or a parent that has information, I'm just asking, you know, I don't know if that's how we want to go about it.
I mean, I think there's 2 paths here. One, either, you know, we put something together and you're gonna have to do a survey or somehow to get
Right.
feedback.
Yeah.
That's one way. The other way is collectively as a board, we just decide what do we think is best for, you know, the kids in the community, and we just decide it's either going to be an open loop or a closed loop.
Right.
So, but you know, open loop is easy because we can just decide amongst ourselves.
Right.
You know, so if Eric was more comfortable with the closed loop, then you have to get feedback. We can't just do an article and then, then then we have no, we still don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
Or not, like a newspaper article.
It is just a quick turnaround. That's my only concern. To get all the information, it's a lot to pull together for anybody.
Well, yeah, but it can't be questions like, would you support the football program? No. Why? You know what I mean? There's got to be some explanation as to how they feel, why they feel that way. What is it going to take to, what is it that they're looking for that hasn't been done? I think this is all good stuff, but I personally don't know why it's not being supported by the community, and there's probably a very good reason.
And I don't think it's ever going to be supported. Either somebody makes a motion here tonight, we approve it or we don't, and move on. Because we can talk all night, I don't think we're going to know, it's been what, 5 years? Every time it's been no. Either we're going to make the decision, we want it or we don't.
And there was
It's got to be up to us.
There was 900 no voters last time, so there's probably at least 500 different reasons.
But you know what, Dennis? We're going away.
Yeah.
We're going away. I'm going by. I ain't going to be involved.
And I hear you.
I guess I would ask that, I think Richard has a good point. I would ask it be on the next board agenda and be prepared to vote it up or down.
Yeah.
And anything we can do between now and then to get some feedback. And I hear Vicky, but
think
as a
it's a lot
former
of
school
work.
administrator, I know John is busy.
I agree.
But
I don't
if this
think
is
he
a
has time to do
priority,
that.
Well,
then it'll get done.
I would do anything, to do what I can to support not only this program, but all our programs here. And if it means another meeting with my coach to put a slideshow together to, educate the general public of what we're doing, why we're doing it, I don't mind doing that.
But I agree. I think it's a lot of work and it's short.
Well, of course, why is it happening now? I mean, how long have we wanted this?
Right, we've wanted it. I guess the urgency is because this could be our last opportunity as an MVU board. Because a year from now, it could be all a unified board, which won't have quite the same representation. I guess still going to be all community members, so I guess it will be well represented.
It's supposed to.
Right.
All right, football, local budget, question on, prominently on the agenda too, because that's another way for people to see that it's coming up.
Do you want to cover track and field, John?
Yep, can we go to track and field next? What I did here was to get estimates on, from the last board meeting of what it's going to cost to finish the track and field. And as you see in front of you, looking at pole vault, 25,000. The shot put area. High jump and what it will take to make that happen. The discus. Last page, hurdles and equipment needed to finish the project.
So Richard, in order to hold a meet here, what do we need? We don't need all of this, right?
What's that?
We've been talking for months, years, about you want to host a meet here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On this sheet that John gave us, which things do you need to do that?
Everything he mentioned.
Even the,
The only thing we could do without is the pole vault.
that's what I thought I heard you say.
Yeah, we could do without the pole vault. We wouldn't be able to hold the state meet here, well, we wouldn't have the right track anyway, but it's far, because a lot of your schools, smaller school D2s don't have a pole vault. You go to some meets.
So you're going to make a motion
But,
that we do all of this?
but some schools do have pole vault,
Yeah.
and those student athletes would not be able to participate in their event because of no pole vault.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, see,
that school might decline to come.
Correct.
Yeah, it could decline to come.
Yep.
You're right. But a lot of them, you know, like I know being in the D4, you get, the only time you get the pole vault is you go to Chittenden County a lot of times.
Right.
Is there any extra liability that comes with having pole vault at the school?
Well, you gotta be more certified.
Is that any
You gotta have a
more?
For a coach,
that's
yes.
certified, and
You have to take
you
a
gotta
class.
take classes and all that.
Yep.
But
And
not
right
traditional.
now, Richard, the,
It wouldn't cost us more.
maybe a little bit different. Athletic directors now, they might put a meet up, like say the first week in May, and they might have a meet at CVU on a Tuesday and maybe Burlington on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And you just go in and go, I'm going to go to CVU this week, and the following week I'm going to go here. You know, some schools that probably will not come. There are schools that will will come to our meet in years to come, knowing that there is no pole vaulting.
But what you're saying is, well, like I got a schedule last week of
Yeah.
Richmond's, and it says for the week of, the first week of April, there's 4 meets, and they, it must be, it's been, it was, RAD that put in Richford's going, I think our first meet, we're going to Colchester.
Correct.
With, you know, he must have put in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So this isn't counting, now, I see you said equipment, hurdles and equipment.
Yeah.
Is this, now, like you got hurdle carts, starting blocks, all that stuff.
Yep.
But now is your, like your pole vault, that's with the, that's 25,000 with the mats and everything?
Mhm.
Standards,
Yep. The packaging.
bars?
Yep. Pad covers, standards, crossbars.
Okay,
And there were some other miscellaneous. You need a cover, a crossbar. You need a measuring stick. There's some
Yeah.
other. But if I were to buy the package, that's what it's going to cost.
yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, to keep things moving, I want to make a motion to appropriate $40,000 to upgrade the track and field program. And then interested board members and Mr. Lumsden, the administration, will decide how to spend it.
All right, we got a motion by Don. Do I have a second to that motion?
Oh. So Don, you wanna take the pole vault out?
I do.
That would-
But if you want to amend it to put it up there, I'll support it, but my motion is without it.
That would be less money.
I think I got a better chance of winning.
I
It's all
Been legislated or what?
I'm assuming that you're fiscal year 20. For the
Discuss
budget you're
it
building,
or
correct?
What I think is important, but.
Or are you looking to
Let me
find
see
it
if I get a
for
second to
fiscal
that
year?
motion.
No, I'm $40,000 because I heard Richard say, and I heard other people say, and I think we're gonna be competing with non-Chittenden County schools, that without the pole vault, we'll be able to start a really good program.
I understand that. I just want to clarify the year. Are you, for the budget we're building or the current year you'd like to see?
Either way, we
money
can get it,
appropriate?
but I'm
Okay.
probably, if we need to take it out of a reserve fund, then we can do that too.
Did I get a
So you
second
mean
on that
a-
motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Mark. Now, opening up for discussion, I'd like to start with John. He's got some more information.
Well, I think, Richard, you're right. We want to be able to, or Don, it doesn't matter, just being able to, I had a 3-year plan. My first plan would be for next year, would be the shed, hurdles, hurdle carts, and starting blocks. I think it's important that we have a shed of some type out there to put the equipment in. It does not do any good to put the equipment left out in the rain, snow, and the cold.
Right.
So I think the first thing that we would need to do would need to put a shed, at least get some hurdles out there for our kids,
And not one of those metal containers.
and not a metal container.
Good, we're on the same page.
I'm okay with that.
So I had it divided out for the first year, Richard, or anyone else, for next year, shed, hurdles, hurdle carts, starting blocks, looking at $18,551. In the 2021 year, we would look to see if we could purchase high jump discus, shot put, lane timers, cameras, measuring canes, tape measures, cart, starting gun, metal tape. You're looking at another $18,000.
So John, may I ask Sue, does that mean it would be 3 years out before we'll be ready to do it?
Yes,
See, I
but
don't
you're going a
wanna
lot
wait that-
faster, so that
See,
works
I
even
don't wanna
better.
work- I don't want to wait that long.
Okay.
Well, I think his point is if we're gonna do it and put it in the budget, now's your chance. It's a one shot.
And that's, yeah. And we're all trying to do the same thing. I think we're all here to, how can we
And I
best support the
appreciate your
program?
plan, but I think there's a lot of things happening, and I think it's important that before we get there.
The only thing, Don, I did say that we didn't need a pole vault, but if you look at the other hand, our kids have to travel to practice. They have to go to either BFA or Milton or Essex.
They travel to BFA.
What's that?
They travel to
They
BFA.
travel to BFA.
So if you make a motion to amend my motion, I'll second it. But I've said, I want to get something out here on the table that I thought would
Yeah,
get reasonable discussion.
I think, we could do, I'm saying if the board don't want to do the whole thing, the thing that I would take out would be the pole vault.
That's what I heard you say many times.
But, if it would, I would like to amend your motion and add the pole vault in.
All right, I'll second that.
All right, motion's been amended, so basically to the full amount.
How many pole vaults we have roughly right now?
We've had as many as 3 to 4.
I can say one of the only Division I athletes that's come from MVU in the last 10 years was a pole vaulter.
Yeah.
I think as a community
Maybe
member.
we can get your
that's-
son to write an article to the messenger to say
You
we
would be
need it.
happy to.
Where would these funds come from?
Well, that was gonna be my question, I guess, 61,000, it would be a great job to get done, for sure. We've been neglecting that facility, that part of the facility for years.
Only thing when it happens, John, I want Richford to be invited to the first meeting.
Okay, we can do that. I'll make sure Nelson does that. I'll make sure he signs up.
You want it named the Richard Flint Memorial? So I think if you're talking, Richard, and I supported it, but I think you probably should throw $65,000 on the number. Because there's always something that, I've done enough construction in my life that it never. and John,
So
I'm
where,
not
again,
questioning
where
your
would these
numbers.
funds be coming from?
Right, I guess
Say-
I'd have to try to ask the question out loud now, where will that money come from? Is it gonna just be added into the 1920,
FY20 budget?
FY20?
Or do we have enough carryover coming, maybe?
I think right now I'm projecting a little less than $100,000, but I'm probably being overly cautious.
So maybe that's where we go.
So there'll be carryover money
So
this
this
year.
couldn't be the capital reserve or,
No,
because it's not existing?
this is new stuff.
So didn't I hear at the last meeting that we should be using that carryover money or the
Capital reserve fund.
capital reserve money?
No, I think I'd have to ask that question, but in my mind, it's improvements on what we already have. It's revamping and improving what we already have. So I don't think I'd discount that fund right off. I think that it's a possibility.
I think there's almost $500,000, but that was about a month ago, and we're currently floating some of the bond
Right,
items
so-
through there, and then we'll get reimbursed.
Yeah.
But I think there's around $400,000 to $500,000.
So Laura, to help us, if the end of the year we have $100,000 that we didn't spend because of good management by the administration, that goes back to the state. I mean, it doesn't go back, but it's
It offsets your
allocated,
taxes 2 years
offset
from now.
to 2 years, right.
The-
2 years from now.
Yes,
2 years from now, so
and because it's MVU,
$65,000,
it's already
we might, 2 years from now, I mean, no, that's,
So, one other thing that come up in my mind here, if we're gonna put in the whole thing, how much more would it cost to put a fence around that track?
That was my second question.
I
I think I can help a little bit.
Yeah.
I believe that in the facilities proposed budget for the next year, the north end has been budgeted for, as we've talked about in the past. Remember, we did talk about that great big fence at one time, and then there was a considerable amount of discussion as to whether or not that would or would not be affordable, for lack of a better term. And so, in talking to Paul, he has budgeted to basically have the north end fenced off from where the woods are, at the marsh area, to where the cross-country trail goes into the woods, into the sand. So that north end that borders the LaFar farm would be blocked off. So
So that's already budgeted for.
that's in his proposed budget for this coming year. Yep.
My question is, you go to a lot of these tracks, they've got one just around the track. Do we need that, or do we need, because I think that's, if they come in from the south side, that's, we're making it a nice racetrack out there.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's,
How much of these things in the proposal can be affected by, say, four-wheeler traffic?
all of them could
All
be
of them.
affected.
Okay.
All, not so much the cement, I guess,
I mean, the
because
track.
you're talking the shot put and the discus pits and stuff ain't too bad, but you're talking, I've been out there and looked at that long jump pit. You get in there and then, boy, how far can you dig a hole with your four-wheeler?
Yeah.
And what would cost for the fencing entire?
We've never been asked, I believe, to come up with the cost for the.
See how much taller
I want to say 30,000.
I think there's some of these projects we've got to implement a little bit incrementally. I mean, I think.
Right.
And I agree with going all the way with this project because it's long overdue. The fence is going to add the cost of this project again, so.
Well,
We're gonna have some limitations on time frame here too. I mean, in order to use carryover, things like that, I mean, how fast can this stuff actually be built? Obviously, you're not doing anything now.
No, but this would be the time, obviously in March when we know, to get some of these bids out and see what we can
But
do.
is it pretty fast?
We'll have equipment around in the spring.
Or does it incrementally have to be done? Or I'm just curious. Can all of this stuff be done?
I would do my very best to see if it can all be done.
And we can hold payment. We have to cut checks shortly thereafter June 30, but we can hold payment until things are complete, up until about 60 days after June 30.
60 days after June.
Some of this
What we
stuff's
try
not
for.
too bad.
Yeah, my guess
You
is.
look at a shot put, you need a concrete 10 by 10,
Yeah.
that,
It's a day's work.
was this one
Right.
bid?
Or less.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, just
from
one
one
company,
company. So one company does it all.
The company that.
Well, no, just one company as in asking what it would cost, and then I went online to see what equipment will cost.
Some of these items will have to be put out, we have to solicit more than at least 3 bids, like the pole vault kit and things like that. Anything over 15,000, we have to solicit or go out to bid for.
So the track itself, John, is pretty well, as far as, there's no grass growing?
Nope. Nope.
Okay,
Nope. There's only one thing I would like to do next spring, and that would be kind of level, I mean, there's some high sides up to the track, and being able to level them off a little bit with some topsoil and some seed.
about the only thing I see, Jay and I were out there, I think we need a tail.
Okay.
Tail, where the blue shed
Yep.
is?
Yep.
So you can start your sprinters and your hurdles. I call it a tail, but
Yep, I know what you're talking about,
They
yep.
probably got a specific
Yep.
name for it, but so you start your hurdles and
Yep.
your sprints back
Mhm.
there. But other than that,
Yep.
What would be the ongoing maintenance costs?
Depends whether we have a fence or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Normal maintenance costs.
Right now, you should be able to take a drag, as we do with our softball and baseball fields, and you just take a drag around that field and drag the footprints, or within an hour, it should look as good as new.
the hardest part of that's going to be linemen.
And that's one thing that was not in here, and I do know they do make a machine that you can put cans, you hit one button and 5 cans will go out.
Yeah.
I didn't, looking at that number, I kind of stopped.
Good thinking, John.
Yeah, it would be more time. You're going to go out there, make some lines and do it by hand, and I know it's a lot of work, but I'm not looking to spend any more money.
Is that a 5-lane or a 6-lane?
5.
Yeah, they must make something like a Zamboni to do that job.
Yeah, that's
I just checked Paul's budget. Paul's put in for the north fence, and it doesn't indicate just how far. I'd have to talk to Paul about that, but he's put in $33,000 for that. And if it does extend all the way across where the baseball field is, that's a good deal of fencing.
I think that was the
And,
discussion, yeah.
even if you just came down, did that north piece, and then maybe put a fence around the rest of the track, you could probably figure you're probably in that 30,000 range. That's just an estimate.
So you may be able to do it with what's in the budget,
Yes.
if you just do it differently.
Yes. I'm saying you could keep that north fence if
Yeah.
you want to do all the way across, both sides. But say if you doubled that, and then came down and around the track, that may work. Again, I'm just estimating, but I just checked his budget.
So Dan, you'd almost have to come down beside the woods there, right? Because
Yes.
you're gonna have your pole wall in there and
Yep.
all that, so you'd have to come right down by the JV field. Right?
I would imagine you'd want to keep enough enough space in there for
Yeah.
runners eventually as they
Yeah.
come up through. But you're right. I want to come far enough across, and John will know more about this than what I
Yeah.
do. But yeah,
And there'd have to be a gate down on that north end as well.
Yes.
Yep.
With a wheel, and so it's heavy duty and locked.
Yeah.
One day we'll open it up. for the
So,
race.
Mr. Chairman, I would go back to Richard and add an amendment that the board authorize this expenditure from this current year's operating budget. And then we can take another look at it. Some of it we won't, some of it we need to move fast, but if it's some additional things,
Yeah, you talked about raising that number to
$65,000.
Is that okay with Richard and Mark?
Now, is that, so are we gonna leave the fence part out of it right now?
Well, we got some of it coming.
That would be my suggestion, is that
No.
we go with what we've got already
Go with
budgeted.
what's
Some of it's already
Now,
allocated.
yeah, I know some of it's allocated, but do we allocate the rest to go around the track, and we just?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe we'll visit that in May,
Right.
June, if we get a lot of money.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So the motion is gonna end up being 65,000, if everybody's agreeable to that. For upgrades to the track and field,
Up to.
up to 65,000, right?
Good choice, good choice.
Yeah, for improvements to the track and field.
Do we accept that up to? I'm not sure, but I guess we can.
That's
All
for
right.
this year's operating budget, so.
So, yeah, right.
Moving out of carryover.
Right, out of carryover,
What happens if we don't have enough?
We'll all chip in our annual stipend.
I'm just saying, what's gonna happen, what will happen?
Right,
Borrow
well,
from football.
Non-existing?
I think,
We'll all-
right, I'm not worried about that happening, but if it does happen, that definitely would be,
Then they'll have to
Well,
start cutting
come
some
on,
things
the
back.
indebtedness that we take to the new
it'll have to come
legislature.
back
will
at
get
the
there.
board.
Right? The
You are on
indebted-
another board.
The indebtedness does go with the assets, so.
Carry over from this year's budget.
It's only, my question, and it's only relayed because of the carryover question is, I think last time we talked about asking Paul if there are any projects he wanted to get done this year as well. So that'd be my only concern. I don't know if that's part of the facilities update you're gonna give afterwards. If there's some things that he's already been thinking about as well, and I don't wanna be fighting over the same funds here.
But he's not here. Bottom line.
Mind if I do the next one?
I
Well, you may
think with the
have
building
those-
project and his budget, he's all right. I think it's.
Right, right. Well, let's earmark the carryover money now, and if there is a problem and we won't know the total until June 30, or do we
What I
know?
think I heard Paul say last time was that there was a built-in contingency into the bond and that he wasn't comfortable moving on with the outside additional build or anything for the storage space because he thought he would eat up that contingency. But I didn't hear him think that he was going to be going above and beyond the contingency. You also have the capital reserve. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, so I have no
Right.
idea what's going to happen tomorrow. But that's what I remember him saying last time he was here.
There was one part, the envelope repairs, that he has not fully put in yet. He was kind of waiting to find out just how much he had
Right,
left over in the
how much he had
bond.
left, yeah.
So he was going to wait for the envelope repairs, whatever he had left over, which was part of the bond.
Right, we certainly aren't gonna touch bond money with this, but there are other projects that may be coming from this.
But there is a capital reserve fund as well.
Right. All right, so I think the motion's gonna read 65,000 from carryover from this
Up
year's.
to.
Up to 65,000 from carryover from this year's budget for the repairs, improvements to the track and field. So, I think that was Don's motion. It was amended, but I think it was originally Don's, and seconded by Mark. So is there any further discussion before we bring it to a vote?
What year is that carryover, Dennis?
I'm sorry?
The year that we're in
The
present?
current year, yes.
Okay.
So we're still on track for a home meet 2020.
Should be done by, yeah, it'll be done this summer. If all goes well, the work will be done this summer. And you're okay with this motion? with
Yes, I
these
am.
things? All right.
So I
He's
guess
smiling.
I don't hear too many objections.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, if we can have everything completed by the end of August, so that payment can be issued earlier than.
Right.
The only comment I want to make before we vote on this is that just, 10 minutes ago we talked about spending $10,000 for a football program, and now we're shelling out $60,000 for track equipment. So I know there's differences in those two, but when we do come to the football vote, I just want to make sure people
Remember that.
take that into consideration.
Well, we spent a lot of money last year on the gym.
Oh,
And that gym, to me, is the nicest gym in the state. It's got to be. I mean,
Yeah.
it's top notch, and I'm proud of that gym. The track and field is way overdue, and that's something that we've had here for a long time.
79.
And it needs help. And I'd like to see, the way I look at it is, let's get what we have now up to snuff and good to go. And then we can concentrate on the other things, instead of kind of like, a little bit here, a little bit there, and then, things just aren't up to par.
well, that's always going to be the case. You're always going to have to be doing up.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to worry too much about this after
No, I
this is
agree.
done.
I'm just
Same
saying.
thing with the gym, There were some additional expenses in the gym. The scoreboards and the nets and those types of things. It just made sense to do it all and get it done.
It's
That should be good for a very long time.
It's interesting, people come to your school and walk in that gym and they go, boy, this must be a pretty good school.
Yeah.
They don't know anything that goes on in the history class, the math class, science class. It's like a clean building. People come into a clean building and go, well, this is a well-run organization. And so I think that what we're doing here is going to help. So I'm ready to vote.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing about the money. Just on the spending it, I'm just talking about the perspective on the dollar
Exactly.
figures.
All right.
And I appreciate, I know you're voting right now.
We're gonna vote right now, so-
Okay, so I should wait till later.
Hold off with your
Okay.
opinion.
All right, I'm gonna bring it to a vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it, motion carries. Now you gotta get to work,
We
John.
got good work, and I do, once again, I know that gymnasium is absolutely beautiful. I just had an athletic director from Missisquoi come in. We had borrowed some staging, and he wanted to come down to the gym. He hasn't seen it yet. He just sit there for 10 seconds, just look in awe. And I know my wife was taking ticket money to the dance competition a couple weeks ago, and people just walked in and just sat there, and they said, she's trying to get money from them to get into the bleachers, and they're just standing there, just looking.
Yeah.
And it is the most beautiful gym in the world. So I do appreciate your support with MVU Athletics. Thank you all.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to piece of work,
That was-
get that done.
that was- All right. Next on our agenda, facilities update, more facility stuff.
I can give you a little bit of information. I kind of expected Paul to be here tonight. I think he had something else come up. But I know that he did attend the Highgate DRB meeting the other night, just to make sure that everybody was fully aware of the improvements that are going to go on here and the construction projects here at MVU, so that they are well aware of what's going on. As far as the pre-construction updates, myself, Paul, and the architects have a meeting here at MVU on the 21st, just to go over all the specs, just to make sure that everything is absolutely the way that we want it. So that when it does go out to bid, 2 days after that, we do have a meeting with DEW and Weeman Lamphere, and I believe that I think they were hoping later that day, even if it hasn't already gone out, that the bids, would start to go on out. So that's kind of where we're at right now. There hasn't been a lot of traction since we last met.
Right, they don't expect anything construction-wise until probably, well, they might start before school's out in some projects. They were talking about
Yep. So
J-Bob.
the projects to the wood chip boiler, they will start those hopefully breaking some ground in maybe late March, early April is what the hope is. Nothing will impact where students are currently at or anything.
Great. Yep, sooner the better.
Yep.
Is the connector to J-Pod, that's gonna get done this summer?
Yes, it is.
Definitely.
Yep. Yep. By first snowflake next, everything's supposed to be done by October. So I'd say first snowflake would be September.
Does the DRB have to sign off on this?
I'm not sure. Yeah, permit's up.
Yeah, all right.
Any other questions?
Mark, that part will be done during the summer when students.
Right.
Yep. But that is part
Is
of it.
it gonna be completed before they return? That's the plan?
That part of it will be hopefully done, yes, by the time we do have a plan if it's not done by then. Alternative entrances and such, and we'll get all that quarantined off, but it is expected to be done. Yep.
Any other questions about facilities and construction bond? Great.
Any facilities? I've got one.
Yep,
The facilities one that's a concern, and it's that wood chip. How come we aren't using it?
when I drove in tonight, I assumed that we were. I thought I saw,
You only bought one load, and you budgeted 51,000 for this wood chip, and you're only buying one load a year. One load costs $1,800.
Is that what was in the check warrants this month? Was this one load?
Well, I don't know, but I know there's only been one load in there,
Oh, okay.
and it costs $1,800 for a load of chips, and we're budgeting 51,000. And last year we didn't even come close to that. We only got one or two loads. We got that wood chip, Dennis. We spent millions of dollars on that thing, and that thing's sitting there. I know it's maintenance,
Well,
but we got to use that thing. But hey, because you know what it's going to end up with? It's going to be a pile, just like Franklin's. It's going to be a pile, and we're going to forget. And there's millions of dollars. That thing's expensive. Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
What is the price difference per BTU natural gas?
Paul does that. Paul does that every year before he commits one way or the other. And this year and last year as well, the natural gas was the best buy. So
Before the season, but I don't know what natural gas, how the fluctuations are, is if it's anything like fuel oil.
you can
How long does it fluctuate? Like, well, it has to go through the public service.
Yeah.
Well, we contract for our gas, so that's,
Yeah, it doesn't.
so if the price does change, I can't remember, it was 10% or something, we have to renegotiate, but I haven't heard of that this year,
It's
so.
not like
Could
fuel.
we get a breakdown of the comparison between the two?
Natural
Yeah.
gas
I'd like to
is
take a
set
look
in
at
the
it.
Public Service Board, and if anything, it's gone down a little bit.
So if you remember, there was a meeting way
It
back
hasn't gone
when.
up. They just can't raise it like a
Prices in
fuel
Franklin.
bill.
Right.
We went over all that
$12 a
analysis.
gallon like fuel does.
Neither of you guys were there, but yeah, that did occur, and I had helped with the analysis, and I don't have, well, I might have it with me, but I do have the numbers, and Paul has these numbers as well. That did show natural gas was.
That was
better
the-
at
And I
time.
believe
Was that
you
the
asked that
meeting-
question to Paul not very long
Was
ago,
that,
John.
was that the
you had
meeting
the
in
same
Franklin,
question.
John?
Yeah, Franklin is.
And it was considerably different. We were surprised, as I recall, how great the difference was at this point. And I do think, Richard, in answer to your question, if I'm correct, the reason he buys the one load every year and runs it is to make sure
Yes.
that the equipment remains
Yes.
operational and up to date.
But my question is,
Yeah.
why are we budgeting 51,000?
That's a good question.
Because
Why,
it-
why,
because-
it shouldn't be
Because
there.
if the price of natural gas
Right.
skyrockets,
Right. Well,
so that's kind of built in there.
maybe
Yeah,
when-
but 51,000, you got your 51,000, it shouldn't be 51,000.
Well, the
Because
thing
we approve
is-
a bottom line, Richard, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming that the total of all your energy would add up to approximately what you
I was
will need at
gonna
the end of
say-
a year, but we divvy it
I
up.
don't think
He
he
probably should
budgets
just
natural
have,
gas
like,
on
energy,
here and
something like that.
wood
And
chips
we will
in
move
addition.
forward.
Because he's only got
So-
$11,000.
For natural gas, yeah. So I mean, if you take the aggregate, you
Actually,
add them both up,
I
that's
take
gonna
that
be
back.
roughly his total costs. So it's just how he's
The
allocating
new
it,
chart
I
of
think.
accounts, they actually request, the new chart of accounts and the new business rules actually request that you break down the type of energy that you're using, because I think the state is trying to
Oh,
think
is that
about statewide contracts and that analysis on their end, so actually I take that back, I can't.
You know, I know a local school has got natural gas, and they're burning wood chips out there. St. Albans, and they got natural gas too, and they're burning wood chips. That's why I'm,
Okay.
Somebody better ask that person to run some numbers, because
Yeah,
I'll tell you, natural
yeah.
gas is kicking wood chips, but
I know that Paul does a breakdown of that, and I know that when I had a meeting with Paul and we were walking around with DEW and the contractors, we went out to the wood chip boiler and they were asking a lot of questions as to how come the wood chip boiler is not going all the time. And Paul he knew the numbers off the top of his head, what the cost of the natural gas was, and he said that natural gas right now, it's not even hard to compare. But he does fire up the wood chip boiler every once in a while just to keep it rolling, keep it going. And so he does get a load of chips every once in a while for that. But right now, the cost of the natural gas is so much cheaper. It saves a tremendous amount of money in comparison to doing wood chips at this time, and even oil. So we have the ability to do oil.
now I've heard story with our oil. Now, is this a true thing? I heard tonight that we have to get rid of some of that oil because it was dirty, because it wasn't being used. Is that? I don't know.
I haven't heard that. The only thing I've heard in the past was that they have to use it.
Yeah, he does.
They have to use some up every year. They don't want to let it sit there.
Right. I didn't know
Right. I haven't heard anything this year.
He does fire it up. He does.
the oil.
Typically, we get shut down on our natural gas for a few days or a day.
Yeah,
or-
it gets real cold. They always did here.
Right,
Yep.
we're an interruptible customer, they shut off our gas, so that's when we fire up the oil and use up. So we make sure you keep some oil in the tank for when we get shut off. And so I hadn't heard anything about dirty oil.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Dan, do you know if Paul is coming up with potential projects for capital reserve usage?
I would have to ask him.
Yeah,
what
can you
he's got.
just make a note
What
if
he's
you
thinking.
get for especially next meeting?
But I knew
Other than the
even
bond.
earlier, I thought Paul was coming, so
Right.
I knew that he had every intent on coming. So
I knew that he wasn't.
okay.
We don't talk about
Yeah.
that.
it's all right.
I know he's got plans for some, because when we were figuring out the bond projects versus
Yeah.
capital reserve, we had laid out a
But I
pretty
mean,
good
there's some
plan.
existing things in here that already that could be, taken care of just ahead of the
Yeah.
game. I mean, like, maybe change out some lights, things like that. Just
Right. Well, and I know that room here has been talked about some as well, but that's another place.
Paul does all right. If he comes in, we'll take care of him. We always do.
All right, great questions. Thank you, Richard. I guess that brings us to our financial update, check warrants. I do have a check warrant report. And I would entertain a motion to approve check warrant report for the dates December 15th, 2018 to January 11th, 2019, in the amount of $537,326.37. Do I have that motion?
I'll make it.
Is that John? Motion by John. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Eric. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll circulate that for signatures. Alright. Was there anything, we have a budget, we have a proposed budget draft here.
Draft 4. And it's a full expenditure budget as it was last month, and it's at this point informational and for consideration and review by this board, but obviously there won't be action on it. Basically, if you look at the variance column, the only items that have been adjusted since last month are the interscholastics budget. I believe it was slightly overinflated due to some misunderstandings between us and the administration. I think we've worked those out, and it wasn't the increase that it was projected to be at the last. Yeah. The specifics I'd have to defer to Dan and Jay or John.
Did you hand out a copy here tonight?
I did. I think I put it on the table for you, but then you gave your seat to Richard.
Somebody else grabbed it, huh? You know, Richard.
No.
So, Laura, correct me if you could, on that interscholastic budget, that included in that figure is the football and the track, correct or not?
No.
No. Okay.
The board's direction was to bring the information, but I don't feel comfortable putting it in the draft without
Okay.
it being approved.
All right, thank you.
I think last time we talked about some of the variances in the last draft, and it was because some of the budgets from different departments weren't in. This has everything in it now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I believe the department budgets were in. The only one we didn't have at the last draft was the interscholastics, the 80 portion. Yeah.
Did we have too much in there?
I'm sorry.
Was there too much in there and had to back some out?
Yes, we were, in the business office, we were double counting some things. I also had shifted the ag, I'm sorry, I don't know the title of the ag.
The activities director?
The activities director has now been moved to the department, the agribusiness department budget rather than part of interscholastics. It's one of those things that could probably go in multiple places, but all the other ag costs are there, so I think it's probably the most appropriate.
So you moved it,
To the department budget on page 1, right on the front, under the department programs, agribusiness. It's now part of that number instead of being, I think it's been in instructional, and then then it got moved into interscholastics, and now I just, when I think of the ag program, that's where I go, so I guess that's why.
Makes sense.
I got a question on page 3.
has that moved up any as being an extra curriculum? Has that been treated more as a like
Like
activity,
coach.
you know, I know that this guy's been at it a long time, and he seems to stay, he doesn't go like a coach.
As I recall, this was the first school year that we're in right now that we've had the ag activities
position.
director. We have asked the person who's doing the job to keep track of their hours, because one of the things that we weren't 100% certain of last year when we approved the position, remember we were debating
Right.
frequently what the number should be.
I think we're talking about two different things though.
Okay.
I'm talking about, like Mark, is he still the FFA advisor? He's still your advisor, right?
Right.
So what, I guess what I'm saying, what, is his salary, I'm like a coach or what's his salary?
If it is contained, and Laura can correct me again,
It'd be interscholastics.
it would be under interscholastics, and it would be, which is on page 3. If you look at your
112.
1410s, you have two different sets of wages. One are for your coaches, your interscholastic coaches.
Yeah,
The others are co-curricular that are not coaching positions. So anything that has been approved by the school, such as that, class advisors, student council advisors, the list goes on depending on what they are. That's where those wages would be found.
okay.
Am I correct, Lynn?
So that's all right, now it's all one sum, right? It's all one sum.
All the coaches are, yes.
So where would I find out which each one makes?
There's a schedule, right?
Right.
There's a salary schedule.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
And again, that's based upon unless you've changed it from when it was negotiated, it's based upon experience and it's based upon the category.
a lot like a coach.
Yeah.
So who do I see to get one of those papers?
I can give you one.
I
can give you one.
You can? Can you email me one?
Will you open the email?
I have Shakespeare, I'll
Yeah,
get it.
fine.
Shows you different.
All right.
Richard's bucket for a job if you can find one.
I had a quick question on
Yep.
page 3, the interscholastics co-circulars, the program expenses. It's listed as a track fence. Is that part of
It's
Paul's?
actually not, that's my error, yeah. That's part of Paul's. I'll omit that for the next one.
Just that one item, so we'll just strike that.
Everything else is in there, yeah. There's a lot in that line.
Right.
That was actually from a different discussion that we had when we were talking with administration. But yes, officials, referees, the athletic trainer, repairs and maintenance, the rental on the ice, printing, staff travel, supplies, books, AV materials, software, equipment, all of that is in that line.
So I just have a question on page 2, under departmental programs, the school improvement. What does that go to?
So that's the budget that we use for professional development.
Okay,
that,
that's-
we want to send teachers to
Yes, perfect. And then the
in service as well.
perfect. And then the theater. Is there a project plan for the theater? Because there's a pretty big increase.
So, Jay, is that the theater manager and the assistant manager?
That's correct.
That's what it is. Okay.
And so plus some of that increase may be catching up with the increases over the last couple of years. we may, there's a lot of them.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure in case someone's like, oh, they're doing this. And
I don't want you to think it's a true reflection of the actual increase. We may have caught up over the last couple of years. We're
Okay.
now issuing contracts because of our new software that we bought a couple of years ago. We can now issue contracts and monitor that much more closely and report it on our end. So.
okay, good to know. Thank you.
Question for Laura under student activities, 240 municipal retirement. We had 0, we spent $1,100, and now we're budgeting 425 and 250. Do we have people that are
Okay,
dropping out of that? Oh, I'm on student activities, interscholastic, co-curricular, municipal retirement. Why is that? If you look at the numbers, we don't budget anything, but do we have people qualified, or have they left us for something else?
We do. I'm trying to think of who that would be because John, it would not be John. I'm sorry, I'm a little unfamiliar with that. I'll have to.
Can I take a stab at that one?
let
Would
you know.
it be staff members who are serving in co-curricular
Yes.
positions?
But only in support staff.
Right.
Yeah, it can't,
Because it's municipal.
retirement, it's not teacher retirement, it's
Right,
municipal.
right, so support staff working in that capacity, then we
Right.
would have to pay municipal retirement on them. A teacher you don't, but municipal has different rules. Municipal's on every cent that they earn, regardless of if they're working in a different capacity, you have to pay municipal retirement. So if they're support staff, yes, it would be that.
So my second question is, if we spent $1,000 last year, what has changed that we're reducing the amount very significantly?
I don't think, maybe who's doing it this year, we're basing it on that.
My guess is fewer staff people are filling those positions and they're having to go outside.
Okay, all right, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's based on the actuals.
Okay.
Page 4, 110. What's,
110 where, Richard?
on page 4?
Yep, but there's a lot of 110s.
Okay, 2120,
Yep, guidance.
guidance. You know, counselors' salaries, how come that's up? Can you explain? And did we add or?
You can see additional days, 5 additional days to be worked by the 3 staff members.
It's not $73,000.
No.
Yeah.
That's the position we talked about.
Oh, yes.
That we haven't,
Guidance.
that we're not going to move forward with.
Oh, you're not gonna go
That was-
forward with it?
Yeah.
Oh, we are?
Say
I wasn't
about
told to take it out of the budget yet, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Can we say that we're, right now? So we're moving,
Have a plan,
Yeah.
this is a good time to talk
yeah,
about it.
so we're going to move forward with the same structure that we have currently for next year,
Is there a
which
good
is
reason?
five counselors.
So that's gonna drop 70,000
I would
Not
roughly,
I
or?
don't know
Not the
exactly.
full 70,000, I don't
Some.
think, no.
The other.
Some is for the extra 5 days, right?
Some of the increases, the
Yeah.
position was possibly going to change into a different circumstance. So you will still have the normal increase, but just not the additional increase.
We have a retirement.
So the health insurance would reflect that too.
Yeah.
That's-
insurance, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have that
That's okay.
information.
I don't
Love
need insight.
other people to share insight to that too.
Are we going to an executive session tonight?
If you want to discuss a possible change of a contractual position, then I think that would make sense to do that.
I mean, if we are, I'm not asking to prolong this meeting, although I've prolonged it quite a bit. I would like to know more about that because we've heard quite a good pitch on that. I want to know how
And the administration has really just, they've been
Okay. That's all I need to
tossing it
know.
around, so it's probably a good time to fill you in on their latest thing.
We've got to be explaining
All right,
something.
any more budget questions?
Yeah, I think I might have asked last time, but I know that with the new way it's being reported and we're not counting, or we're not able to use revenues for offsetting it, but what is the actual percent increase? Because I mean, it's from last year's reporting, it's not a 1-to-1. So I mean, do you have that number as far as what our actual increase is if we were to compare it to last year's?
No, because it's not something that's very easily identified at all. We have been talking about how we're going to calculate that.
Because obviously our budget didn't increase by $3 million.
Yeah, it's only
Right.
$3 million
Which is-
increase. What's that
which is-
percentage? It's,
I think at the last last meeting, I encouraged you to look at the functions other than the assessments,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
wanna have a better idea of what your actual increases are. But even then, as we know, there's, like, we've included the grant-funded coach in your salaried positions. We can do that analysis, we're not at a point where we've done that analysis yet, other than we're keeping track of the local costs. But we would literally have to go back and separate all of the assessments, and not assess them on the rubric in which we're assessing them, but actually look at actual costs, and break it apart. We have not done that. What I can tell you very quickly what your percentage increase is on your lines that are not your assessments.
Okay. Is that something we can have then? Okay. It's just that, being able to compare to how we're operating before, it's a big thing.
This is a better actual baseline to
No,
look at.
I understand.
Yeah.
Moving forward, it'll be fine, but,
Yeah.
making this jump without having a good understanding of what's actually going up.
and we can let Laura work on that for a minute if we want to move along. Any other questions while we're finishing up on budget discussion? All right, administrators report. Start with that. We won't rush you, Laura.
Yeah.
Take your time. We'll be here for hours.
All right, so we have 3 students who are going to be participating in a Community Anti-Drug Coalition conference in Washington in February. Anna Kaminsky, Madison Lampman, and Bella Bigelow. So excellent honor for them, and we'll have a great opportunity to meet members of our delegation. Great leadership opportunity for those students. We've already talked a little bit about facilities today. Some recent professional learning. Right after the Christmas vacation, we had our literacy consultant come in for 2 days, and she worked targeted groups with our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade middle school English teachers, and the focus was on strategies for reading informational text and how to help students build their understanding of central idea, and then how to take that understanding of their reading to writing. And then we just had a group of quite a few, 5, maybe 7 teachers who returned from the Think Kids Tier 1 training, which is about collaborative problem solving. We sent a group last year, sent 2 groups last year to this training. And it's really helping to support the social emotional learning and behavior response we have in the building. And so what we're most excited about with this group that just went is that they were classroom teachers, so they're going to be able to take their new learning and apply that to their interactions with students. And the science fair was this evening. We hope that you had an opportunity to see many of the exhibits and talk with our students. We have in-service scheduled on Monday. We are going to have kind of our annual turnover from the semester in the morning, so teachers will have opportunities to prepare for second semester classes and also tie up the first semester. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do some school-wide work on social emotional learning. And then next Thursday evening is our annual orientation for 9th grade. It's the class of 2023 that is going to be in 9th grade next year. And we are incorporating our math and literacy night at the same time. So we're very excited about the event. Families will come in and learn about the registration process. The course is available to them, our 9th grade teaming. And then we're going to follow up with some activities related to math, and we're going to provide some materials for parents to take home to play math games with their students. And then we're also doing a large book giveaway, with talking points about how you can talk with your children about what they're reading. So we've got really popular titles that we are going to make available, but also we are going to have a used book experience for folks to take some texts home as well. So we're really excited about that night.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Superintendent, or Laura, do you have anything for us?
It's about 6.5%. It's a little bit tricky again because we're also transportation. We're no longer showing a full expense. We have to net the revenue out of that as well. So, if I take that into account, it's 6.5. If I don't and look at it like as true expenses as they are now, then it's about 4.5. But again, that's not your assessments, the true cost of your assessments, and we know special ed is a huge line. So about 3.4 million is your true special ed cost here, including administration. So, but if you wanted to know what the increases were to that, you could look at the Franklin Northwest budgets and look at those increases.
All right, well, that's something to go with. Any other, I don't want to backtrack too much, but any other budget questions? All right, superintendent's report.
So I was very pleased that we were able to have the science fair, and Vicki and I both judged the science fair tonight, and we were worried about not being able to because of the board meeting, but the timing was perfect, and it was really a wonderful event. I remember when my student attended here, there was a social studies project in middle school, big event, but the science fair had not started. So it was new for me, and I was very impressed by all of the exhibits I judged and the others that I saw. And tomorrow I am going to be attending the Poetry Out Loud event and judging that, and I'm looking forward to that event.
What event is that, Julie?
Tomorrow morning, the Poetry Out Loud event. It'll be in the theater. So today I spent the day in Berlin with all the superintendents, with Dan French, the other Dan, and I was confusing Dan French and Dan Palmer earlier today. It's not really a fair comparison. And we had Catherine Webb and Larry Capoli, I think is how you pronounce his name, from the House Education Committee. And we had a lot of questions and feedback, both for the Agency of Ed and also around possible legislative topics coming up. Some of the feedback we gave the agency were concerns around the Power School finance programming and the aggressive timelines there, the challenges they're having. Definitely concerns around the rollout of the statewide longitudinal data system, and other concerns around Act 46 as well, and the implementation and conflicting information sometimes that we're getting. The legislative agenda, right now it's kind of preliminary, but we're definitely seeing things as varied as wanting superintendents association support on bills around vaping and trying to reduce that. And there might even be a bill, I don't know if it'll make it to the floor or not, but around raising the age of tobacco use and vaping to 21. So that's something that folks were talking about. They were talking about ethnic studies programs happening in schools. I think that legislation would be about a study, but still, and I think we would be likely to see some Act 46 Everything from stop it, delay it, there just all kinds of things. So I'm not sure what the feeling of the whole legislature is, but they definitely said there's been a lot of activity. And of course, I think at the same time, there was press conference and activity going on in Montpelier as well. So I'm sure we'll hear about that pretty shortly. And just around Act 46, I think it's important for the camera for folks to know, again, that there had been an organizational meeting scheduled for next week. There was an agreement with the Attorney General's office to delay holding that meeting for those districts that were involved in a litigation. So that meeting has been canceled. We're instead going to have a second meeting of an amendment committee that will meet here in this library to talk about articles of agreement. And we have warned the organizational meeting for February 20th here at MVU. And I believe that the National Honor Society said that they would be able to help out with childcare for folks who need it.
When is the next meeting for the Articles of Agreement Committee?
The 23rd, which is Wednesday.
Julie, was Phil Baruch, the chair of Senate Ed, there today?
He was not.
He missed our meeting in response to.
We got a lot of feedback. We asked for no new initiatives.
It's an annual request, but it would be good.
So that's really all I have.
All right, you seem to have a warning here. I don't know if there's any discussion points. I don't know where they came from. They just ended up here. Warning for the February 20th meeting.
Yes, so just as we discussed in some of our other meetings, the business that will take place on the 20th is to organize how the new district would vote and conduct business. So they would elect a clerk, treasurer, and a moderator. The voters of Franklin, Highgate, and Swanton will be here, or in the theater actually, and we'll vote on how we will hold elections. Will we vote on budgets and board members and other articles by Australian ballot, the way they currently do in Swanton, or will we do it in a special town meeting that the district holds every year? So it is important that the communities attend the meeting and have their voices heard.
I have thought about that many times. I'm curious to see how that works out, because we've got a couple of Swanton has been Australian ballot for everything for years. Highgate and Franklin, always from the floor. MVU's gone from one to the other.
Right.
And so it'd be very interesting to see which way the voters go with that. And I'm not sure, if people ask, I'm not sure which I would recommend. Each has its advantages.
Absolutely. The most important thing is that we have good participation and we have good information in the community. So no matter what the voters choose, we'll make sure that we have good information out.
I personally like the town meeting, but I'm going to tell you that at the end of MVU having a meeting, very few people came, made a lot of big decisions. I hate to see us fall back into that.
Well, I think a well-attended informational meeting prior to the Australian ballot is ideal. Challenging. We don't always get a well-attended informational meeting.
You don't.
Well, one of the things that we will be doing is choosing the date that we hold our annual meeting. So if we choose a date that's after town meeting day, as some communities do, we could tag on to town meetings and do information there at the end of town meeting day or at lunchtime or something like that. As well as you have to have a single district meeting.
Right.
So
Town meeting day will probably be considerably shorter since there's not going to be any sort of school talk.
very true. Yeah. So you could have I mean, there are things that can be done because you have a bit of a captive audience.
Anybody have any idea what percentage of voters in Highgate participate in your town meeting?
I'm not sure the percentage. They still draw a good gymnasium full. I mean, they draw a good crowd. I would say, there's definitely hundreds of people. So they draw a pretty good crowd. In Franklin, I think everybody in town goes. So.
Nope, not me.
Well, except for me. I have to work that day.
Me too.
You would go if you were there, if you were in town, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
People certainly have. Franklin does seem like they're very committed. And,
Yeah.
and Highgate does well. They like, I don't know, how many people would you say there? I'm trying to think.
79
I
or
was gonna
so.
say, when they vote on
Yeah.
things, it's usually,
Yeah.
maybe a couple hundred almost. So, yeah, they're good turnouts, and, I guess still a relatively small percentage of voters.
It is, when I met with the town clerks, Franklin is a much higher percentage of the registered voters attend. Highgate, it's maybe 10% of the registered voters attend. But again, to change it, you have to come to the town meeting and have your
Right.
voice heard. So
Right.
this is an opportunity for all three communities in the evening to come and decide how they want to vote.
February 20th, be there. All right. New business. Who would look for that one?
I'm in.
This you, Jim?
Yeah.
That's
No.
Dan.
I've got a couple of different pieces. One is just to bring awareness to the new visitor management system. Many of you may have received a phone call from Steve Messier, our Director of Student Affairs, the other evening, just letting people become aware of the new system. And just to kind of give you an idea, I've got part of his message here. From Steve, it says the Raptor system will allow MVU to better monitor visitors, contractors, and volunteers who visit the school. All visitors who come will be asked to show picture ID, whether that's a driver's license, a U.S. passport, or a non-driver ID card that's actually scanned into the Raptor software system. The system only checks to ensure that registered sex offenders are, that's what the system checks, is those people who are on the registered sex offender registry list. It's important to note that the Raptor system only scans the visitor's name, date of birth, and photo for comparison to the national database. No other personal identifying information is saved or shared. And the Raptor does not connect with any other systems, including the Department of Motor Vehicles or Immigration and Customs. Once it's what people will get out of it is an adhesive little badge that will identify them as a visitor, the date and the purpose of their visit. Visitors are going to be required to sign in and out at the conclusion of their visit, which will allow us to better track people who are here in the building and when they leave. Any questions on that? Our front personnel, office personnel, in fact, all of our administrative assistants have been trained in how to use the Raptor management system. And that'll be for just during the day, school day here. The other piece that I just want to bring to people's attention is a letter that I'm going to be sending home from the middle school office. And I'm hoping to send it out tomorrow. And it'll read something very much along these lines. That as of late, cell phones have become a major issue here at MVU. Increasingly, more and more student issues regarding texting, taking pictures, and cyberbullying have been taking place. In my conversations with teachers, students are less engaged in their learning and more distracted. Starting on January 23rd, students will no longer be allowed to use their cell phones during the day. This includes during transition and lunch times. They're allowed to bring them to school. They can use them on the bus. They can use them before the 7:57 bell and after school, but not during the school day. In my conversation with teachers, all of the teachers were very, very supportive of this, as they've seen these cell phones become more and more of an issue. None of the teachers right now, since students have a one-to-one device, are having students use their personal device for anything. So occasionally a calculator, occasionally as a timer, but all of that can be done on their personal device. As a first offense, any student who has their phone out, they'll be asked to leave it in the middle school office for the remainder of the day. A second offense, we're going to ask that a parent come pick it up. I'm going to be meeting with all students at the end of the day on Tuesday, January 22nd, to inform them of this change. I've already started spreading the good news today. And believe it or not, I actually dealt with 12 issues regarding cell phones just today. One day only, 12 issues involving cell phones. And it's just becoming a major, major issue. And so teachers, and of the few students that I did speak with in regards to the change, they were actually very welcome for it as well. So I think it will relieve a lot of that stigma and stress about having to have one and have it out. And my hope is that kids will actually start talking to one another during lunch. So again, I'm going to email, or I'm going to send this letter out to parents.
Watch out what you wish for there.
I know, but you know, so it's just asking them to inform it. If they've got to contact their child during the day, contact the middle school office, just like we used to do. That system still works. And if parents or anything have questions, they can email me, and I've also given my direct line on here as well. So, but again, I'm hoping that'll go on out tomorrow. Put it in the mail tomorrow. I know with Martin Luther King Day coming up, parents may not get this until Tuesday, at which point their child will have been notified at the end of the day on Tuesday for the start of Wednesday.
It's good stuff.
Thank you. Like I say, every teacher was like, thank you, thank you. They were very, very appreciative of it. And again, they're just seeing more and more misuse of them, and kids are distracted and such. So right now, it's just a middle school piece. I have let everybody else know, Jay, Jen, Steve Messier, his whole office area, let them know that a change is coming. I'm also going to remove the PPSKs, which are the personal passcodes for individual devices, just in case. So it causes a few waves, but it's my hope is to reshift the focus back to academics and get the new focus back in.
I see a lot of heads nodding, so good luck.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody's going to argue. Any questions for Dan? Those two systems, two ideas. All right, meeting dates. I do want to mention the Articles Amendment Committee meeting again, because everybody is welcome to attend that. It is going to be on the 23rd, I believe 6:30 again. Our last one was at 6:30.
Yes.
So 6:30, and I assume it's going to be here in the library again. Do you know that? All right, so it'll be right here at 6:30 on the 23rd, and it's interesting stuff. I think if people are able to, I think it's a good one to come to. We were a very welcoming crew, so it worked out well the other night. We got a lot done, a lot more to do, but we got a lot done. And our next meeting here for the Franklin Northwest Board will be February 6th at Swanton Library, 6:30. And February 20th will be the new district organizational meeting, 7 o'clock in the theater here. And our next board meeting for the MVU Board will be February 21st, that next day, 7 o'clock here in the library.
Busy couple days.
Yeah, it's a busy month. In the executive session, we hadn't really planned one. We've had some concerns that we should have one. I suppose it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a quick executive session. Looking at Dawn, looking at the time, I'm not sure if quick's the right term to use, but...
No, I would just like to know a little bit more about
Yeah.
the position.
Okay, so I think I would entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of a contract discussion. Do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Vicky, second by Richard. Is that good, Richard? Okay. Motion by Vicky, second by Richard. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We're in executive session.